Hey everyone, and welcome to the Sam Dever Podcast, episode 15. In this episode, I talk with my friend Lucy Isaula. Lucy is an actor, an artist, a poet, and a book author who I was very excited to catch up and talk to. If there's one person that reads more than me, it is Lucy. She probably reads way more than me and reads way more than most of humanity, and that's what I love about her. It was such a fun conversation about books, and speaking of books, the book of the episode is her book she came out with called Then the Flowers Found Me. It's available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, and you can also, and she'll talk about it in the episode, contact her directly to get a copy. It's an amazing read, very deep, very heartfelt, very inspiring, so I highly recommend you get it. Then the Flowers Found Me. With that being said, here's my conversation with Lucy.
Lucy Isaula, welcome to the Sam Dever Podcast.
Hi.
And for all of you watching the YouTube version right now, you are going to see right off the bat that Lucy has now taken the throne of backdrops on this podcast with her massive book collection. And that's not even all of them, right? You have more books than what we see.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
How many
Definitely.
books do you read a month?
I used to be able to read 20 a month. Now I'm only able to... I had a lot of time. But now I can read maybe the most is 7.
The most 7.
I mean, compared to 20 when I used to be able to.
Well, and that's one thing, like, I like to put books I read out there and encourage people reading. We're even doing books of the episode, which we'll go ahead and plug your book right now. The book of the episode is going to be Then the Flowers Found Me by you, which we'll talk about that here in a sec. But when I see you reading, I'm like, she doesn't just read. She reads like a lot. I thought I read a lot until I met you, and you read a lot. So could you tell me how you got into reading and how that whole started with you?
Definitely my dad. When I was a young girl, my dad would always take me to the library. And I don't have a lot of memories, but I do remember the library just being this very yellow place. And a lot of kids' libraries are actually like that, where it's always very bright, because I think that is more inviting. So I remember that. My dad would take me to the library. My mom would order me books from a catalog to be sent to the home. And every day I would always go and check the mailbox to see if the books came. And then I just made a habit of going to the library a lot. And then as I got older, I started realizing that I was spending a lot of time on my phone. So in order to get that out of the way and not spend so much time on it, I decided to take up reading more actively than ever before. Yeah.
Well, and there is a huge difference. And you don't read anything like Kindles or stuff like that, right?
Oh, no.
It's
I
an
like
insult.
the feel of a book.
Well, it is. I mean, not that you can't read on those things, but it's just, for me, it's not the same. And I actually read somewhere that reading from a actual paper physical book does something different in your brain too when you read the words. And I don't know what it had to do with, but it's just a different way of working your mind as well. I
would imagine so. You know, just having the physical thing itself, it's just, it feels good.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You got to tell us about your ensemble here, your outfit real quick. You're Halloween themed here.
Yeah, it's Halloween themed. So you told me to dress up for Halloween, and I was going to get something, but I can't find anything. So I went to Spirit Halloween, and I got these little accessories for hands. I'm going to wear them in my everyday life, of course. And then I got this little head circlet. So it's up on my third eye. So I'm envisioning that everything is coming through it.
Wow. And I feel bad now for not. I think I have a Kermit the Frog mask in my closet somewhere.
I actually felt like a PB&J costume, and I was going to be like, I should tell Sam and I to dress as for your podcast.
That would have been funny. Yeah. Are you going to celebrate Halloween, or you just, okay? So you. Yeah. I think I saw on your Instagram you've been ready for Halloween.
Oh yeah. I love Halloween every year.
Why do you love Halloween?
It's just, dressing up, getting to be something that you're not, and just being around other people who, love to dress up as well. It's a way to just not be yourself for a day and just let loose and be a different character.
I want to say I've been to a Halloween party with you before.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. I don't know
At
if
the
it was
Pineapple, right?
at the
Is that what
Pineapple
it's
Hill.
called?
Yeah. Fun
I have a
time.
picture of us.
Yeah, that's what it was. And JJ was there and a
Yeah.
bunch of okay, my memory serves me correct. And well, have fun this Halloween. And back to books. I you seem when I look at you post the books you post, you seem to read quite a big variety of
Yeah.
books. Is that true? I mean, do you have a certain genre you like to focus on, or do you pretty much read anything?
I pretty much read anything, but I really like focusing on poetry the most. Poetry and fiction are my go-to first.
Okay, and you write poetry as well.
Yeah.
How long you've been writing poetry for?
Probably 4 years now, I want to say.
4 years.
4 or 5 years.
Had you been reading it and then you just decided to write it, or how did that happen?
Yeah. So I always wrote in general since I was a young girl. Like I wrote short stories a lot and I always journaled because I love keeping journals. But I never could make a commitment to short stories or especially to fiction or playwriting because they're so big and it's so much world building that I don't have the patience for, honestly. And then when I started discovering poetry and reading it, that's when I was like, oh, this is so simple. Like you, in just a few verses, you can say what you want to say from beginning to end and it all connects together and it's there and you don't have to, do more after that. What you want to say is there. And that's what I really liked about it. That I just, whatever I wanted to say was in that whole verse. And I can move on to the next thing. And I don't have to like ruminate over it or worry about building on it more.
Yeah, and even definitely reading through some of your poems in here. I mean, yeah, you're exactly right. You can read a page of something, but that's all you need to read for the day if you just wanted to, because you can sit with like, wow, and like unpack so much in so little through poetry and just good writing in general. Is it a way of therapy for you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Writing in general is cathartic, whether you're writing poetry, whether you're journaling morning pages, just letting out what's inside you. You get to empty yourself out and get rid of any unwanted feelings or figure out what you're going through or, I don't know, figure out plans, where you want to go in life or the past, what has happened.
And so so going on to your book now, what led you to you've been writing poetry, you read all the time. It was probably just in the cards. I mean, You're going to write several books, I predict. But what made you say okay, I think I'm ready to write a book or I want to write a book?
So the funny thing is that I never wanted to write a book. But a lot of people in my life since I was a young girl always encouraged me to do writing. My 5th grade teacher, my high school teacher, and then a lot of friends and coworkers were always like, you should write a book. And I was like, no, it's not for me. And then finally during the pandemic, of course it's going to come up. I had a lot of free time and I was doing, I wasn't doing acting because, there's a break. I can't go to class, can't really audition or anything. So I felt like I had this angry spirit in me where I was like, the pandemic is taking so much from me and from everyone, but I am not going to let it take this one thing that I have. So I decided, what other way can I create and express myself and put something out during these troubling times, obviously. Mm-hmm. And so that's when I decided, well, I could put all my focus and attention to doing a book. So then that's when I decided to go through all of the Google documents that I had of all of my poems where I keep them saved and started getting out the ones that I really liked and I felt really resonated with the voice and the story and the theme that I wanted to tell in my book. And then that's how it all came about, basically.
Wow. And without giving too much away, what would you say is the theme of your book? Or for someone that wants to know the short description of it, how would you describe what this book's about?
I would definitely describe it as it's a book about self-love and self-healing and finding your way back to yourself.
Wow, that's good. That's good. It's really been eye-opening to me too as of late, just how important self-healing really is.
Oh yeah.
And how really shout out to Awareness, which you've read. I would have given you a copy, but like Lucy, she's like, oh yeah, you told me.
Here.
Yeah, she's like, I got it, I read it, and I'm just like, of course you did. I'm like, great. But just having that awareness to even realize that you need healing, or that there's certain things, like me in particular, like there's certain things I haven't healed yet over that I thought it was over. And then I would think maybe when you're writing, it's a good way to make discoveries like that.
Oh yeah, definitely. Especially uncomfortable discoveries, once you come to them, you don't want to write about it because you don't want to face that side of yourself, but you can't ignore your inner voice and you have to let it out, no matter if it's ugly, no matter if it's horrific, it just has to come out.
Yes. And so I have to ask you, is another book in the works?
I have 2 in the works.
What?
Yeah, I have 2 in the works.
Please share.
So one is a book centered on women, where it's the experience of being a woman, the complexities we have, the emotions like jealousy, anger, love, just how it is to be a woman. It's been taking me a long time to get that one done, though. I did take a break. And then the other one that I'm doing is the street poetry of Los Angeles, where basically I go out with my typewriter, which I'm like sitting behind. Whoa. I go out with my typewriter and I write poems for strangers on the spot. I ask them, what's in your head, basically. And they tell me, and then I write a poem about it. And all of those poems are going to go into a book. I already have about 60 poems for that. But I'm planning on getting around to like 150 to 200, however long it takes me.
Okay, so a lot to unpack here. First of all, put me down for both of those, the pre-orders. Because both are, definitely put me down for those. Starting with the first one you just told me about, with being a woman. Just for your own inspiration, there's a book called The Female Brain.
I read that one.
Of course you read it.
It's like right here somewhere.
I feel like we're gonna have a book war. Like, hey, have you read this?
Yeah. No, there's ones that you've read that I haven't. Trust me.
Okay, but I would be fascinated to read that, because that book, The Female Brain, definitely gives you a perspective from a woman's mind. Because I think sometimes, I don't know if you're probably not writing that book for men. I would assume it's probably maybe for women, or maybe for everybody. Or I guess, is there a certain person you're talking to with this book?
No, there isn't. It's more just writing about the experience of being a woman. I think that men would be able to read it too, and you can just know how it is, to feel like a woman, to have all of these experiences and not filter yourself and just be raw. Because as women, especially when we're in relationships, we tend to hide what we want to say, and we tend to hold these grudges and resentments, and we let them build up. At least most women do. It's not healthy, but we let them build up, and eventually it explodes. So this is, in a sense, getting before that explosion and just letting it explode all at once, all of those emotions. So you would get to see basically like how a woman would react if she did, if you gaslit her and she just exploded on you at that moment, and all of those feelings. Wow,
that's fascinating. Do you have a title yet for that, or is you keeping that under wraps for now?
I'm keeping it under wraps for right now.
Okay, yeah. Well, I'll wait for the IG announcement of that one. That's really cool. And I have one more question with that one. Is that can you tell what the structure of it's going to be? Is it going to be like chapters? Is it going to be like little stories, or how do you foresee it?
No, so basically what it's going to be is there's also character pieces in there, kind of like, the Spoon River anthology, where it's a character speaking their truth. So there's a bit of pieces in there where it's also character pieces in the perspective of another woman that I had a vision of, and I write in the point of view of her. So it's going to be broken up in that sense, where it's first the characters that I've channeled in, basically, and wrote through their point of view. And then the other half is going to be my experience as a woman.
Wow, that's really dope. I'm really looking forward to that. And then so the next one, so you're telling me you've already been doing this. You take a typewriter, you go around Los Angeles, and you ask random people who you do not know, what are you thinking about, or what's on your mind, and you write a poem on the spot.
Yeah.
And you've done this.
Yeah, I've done it a few times already.
How did that start? I think that's amazing. I think that's an incredible human experience right there.
It's It's really, really fun. I wanted a typewriter, and I've been wanting a typewriter for a while, but I said, first of all, why do I want it? I know that I'm not going to write a novel or anything, and I'm not going to just let it sit in my house too. I want to have something in my house that I'm going to use. And it would do, injustice to the typewriter itself if I just kept it locked up in my room and didn't take it out to write. So I decided, well, what can I use it for? So I decided I'm going to order it. And as I'm ordering it, I'm going to find out what is it that I want to say. And so then I decided that, I can go out and write poetry for strangers. I could go out in the street and just sit with my typewriter, wait for people to come up to me. Whoever feels called to me, I'm not going to, approach them, because not everyone wants to open up to a stranger, of course. Mm-hmm. So I decided, I'm going to take my table, I'm going to take my typewriter, and I'm going to have a big sign that says free poetry. And whoever comes up to me, and whatever they want to say, they say, and then I write a poem about it, either about what they're talking about. Sometimes I write advice to them. Sometimes I write how I'm experiencing the same feeling that they're experiencing, or whatever else is in that moment. What
an amazing way to get deep with a random stranger really quickly.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Because if you were to just go up to someone and say, hey, man, tell me everything, but like you're using poetry almost as a safe space, like mentally for them too. Like, oh, it's a poem, but exactly. You can get, they're giving you an issue maybe on your mind, and if it resonates with you too, you're able to give, hey, I'm going through this too. Like, or maybe you knew someone who went through that. That is so cool. I really love that idea and that concept you're doing. Never heard of anyone who's ever done that before.
A few people have done it, but they usually travel the United States and stuff, which I wish I could do, but I mean, no.
You're born and raised in LA, right?
Yeah, I'm born and raised in LA. So I definitely wanted to capture like my home. Like this is my kind of my love letter and me giving back to the city that I'm from.
If we could transition to that, because very few people that have been on here are actually from LA. What is it like growing up? What was it like growing up in Los Angeles?
Oh, so different than what it is now.
Yeah.
So different, because in downtown LA, it was so safe to walk in the streets back then. It was like, don't be out past 7 because people will mug you, which was the honest truth. But besides that, it's definitely, I don't know how to describe it, but it feels very much like home to me. And where I have so many home friends here, I know a lot of people don't, where they're like, all of my friends and family are back home. But I have my group of friends that I can just call and we can just hang out. And yeah.
That had to have been a great artistic influence for you growing up in a place like this, just with you.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, obviously the acting business and just the amount of artists, the museums, like everything that's here.
Definitely. Especially the diversity and just how much we are of a salad bowl. I went to Hollywood High, and there were so many people from different walks of life that it's just, you have to be open to everything and to everyone, because you're bound to come across someone that's going to be like in 10-inch heels with a big wig or something and just acting off the wall. But it's fun. You don't find that anywhere else but in LA.
Hollywood High, that sounds like it should be like a TV show. or
Probably.
Yeah, Hollywood High. It's just all these different groups of all types of people. That's so cool.
Exactly.
And and then you and I, we met at Playhouse West here in Los Angeles in the acting community. And how long have you been acting for? What I never really asked you.
A long time.
Okay.
That's all I'll say.
Okay. So you've been on it makes sense. You grew up in LA. I mean, that's what a lot of people, it's just kind of a natural road. And you were always one too that was telling me about different plays as well.
Oh, yeah, because I read a lot of plays.
Are you still reading plays right now, or are you focusing on?
I don't have a lot right now. I have a few that I put to the side, actually, the ones that were right here. I just got those recently. I maybe got like 7, but I haven't been focusing on reading them a lot. But when I do come across them, I buy it.
What's your favorite play?
Definitely Cost of Living and The Shape of Things, I believe is the name, by Neil LaBute.
I think you told me about that.
Yeah, I think I probably told you about it.
Yeah, is that a love play, The Shape of Things?
It's basically kind of, it's a play where this girl gets this guy to fall in love with her, but she doesn't really love him, and she forms and shapes him into this different guy that she wants him to be because it's her own personal project.
Oh.
So it's kind of messed up, but it's interesting because it's, you know, he falls for her, he gets feelings for her, and this is all a game to her. This is all for her artistic stuff, that's what gets me, you know, it's all for the art, and she'll do whatever it takes to get her art project.
Well, okay, I may be mixing plays up here. I'm going off of Scene Nights that I saw. That's not the one with the photographer. Is she a photographer, or is he a photographer in this? Or
I think she might be a photographer because there is one scene towards the end where she uses all of these photographs of him and shows him progressing. So that's the one you may be thinking of, because I think a lot of people use that
do
for
that
scene
scene
night.
for Scene Night. I want to say that.
Yeah.
It's funny. I don't know the name of it, but the way you're just telling me, hey, that sounds like that could have been that scene I watched.
Yeah. A lot of people use it.
And there's another one. What was the one you said before that? The Cost of. There's another one you told me about. I think it was there's two different plays. It's like a series. It's a love play where. This is terrible. I'm going to waste our time if I start thinking about it. But it was like this one guy. There's like multiple guys and girls involved, and this one guy treats his girlfriend like crap. And then when it's like best friend swoops in.
Yes.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Because I read a scene for it. You told me about it.
I think it's still Neil LaBute.
Yeah, I think it was.
I'm saying his last name right. I know what you were talking about, but I forget the name of it. But I really like that play as well.
Yeah.
I'll have to look it up now because now I want to know.
Yeah. Yeah. So I wanted to also, based upon your Instagram, I've never seen them in person. You have a rabbit. I
do. Yeah. He's outside right now. I closed the door because if I let him in, he's going to start eating hay. And in the background, you're going to start hearing like, you know.
Every time, you know those Cadbury Easter Bunny commercials?
No.
Oh, you've never seen those?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, it's not going to resonate. But yeah, no, I love rabbits. I've always wondered what it'd be like to have a pet rabbit, and then all of a sudden you posted a pet rabbit. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you have a rabbit! Like, what's it like?
It's the best. I love him because he's so quiet. He's just chill. All rabbits have a different personality. My past rabbit, Clara, she was definitely more of the aggressive type, and definitely more like if you gave her bananas and they were both there, she would start biting him and growling at him to stay away from the bananas. Thumper very much likes to keep to himself. I brushed him today, and it was just like him going all over the place, trying to bite me. And then when I had another rabbit years ago, he was one of the most lovable bunnies that I had because he would wait for you to come home and he would start chasing you. He would kiss you. He would let you lay your head on top of him. He was the best. He was the best.
Are they hard to take care of?
They're not too hard to take care of. You just have to be always aware of them and basically do a treat test for them every night and morning to make sure that they eat their treats, because if they don't, that can be the signs of them going into GI stasis, and basically which is like their gut slowing down. And once their gut starts slowing down, that's very dangerous because it can mean death.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So it sounds like a rabbit might be between a dog and a cat, where a cat, cats you can like let alone for like a week and they'll be fine as long as they have food and all that. Dogs, you got to be on like a lot, but the rabbit, you can kind of let it go, but you got to be paying attention somewhat. Yeah.
Definitely.
Might have to get a rabbit one day.
You should.
Yeah, I want to get a dog.
Make sure you get bonded ones.
A what?
Bonded ones. Rabbits like to have a partner, so you would have to get two.
Oh.
Yeah. That's how they live longer, when they're bonded most of all, because a rabbit can't be alone all the time. They need another bunny to understand it and to be there to give what a human can't give, basically.
Wow. Where do you go to find a rabbit? Like just a pet store?
I don't know if pet stores do it anymore where you can adopt rabbits. I look online and there's a few rabbit organizations that you can adopt from.
Okay. Awesome. Well, I always take a few good gems away from this podcast. Definitely for rabbit shopping, I'm going to be well more
I can
equipped.
tell you everything. I'll let you know where to buy all the stuff that you need. All the hay. I get a big stack of hay for $8, and it lasts me good.
So that's all they eat is hay.
Hay, and then their pellets, and then
What about
like
carrots?
treats. Oh yeah. But that's like a dessert to them. So you just want to give them maybe once or twice a week.
Okay.
It's very sweet for them.
You might write a book one day, The Rabbit Whisperer. Or a novel. I could see you writing a novel, a fiction novel.
Maybe like a children's book. I think it'd be nice to write a children's book.
Yeah. Did you read a lot of children's books when you were a child?
Oh yeah. I had all of those Disney hardcover, the thin ones that have the pictures and then the little, saying at the bottom. I had all of those.
And I noticed you, was it Rumi you were posting on your Instagram?
Yeah.
And okay, now enlighten me. And I've heard the name a million times and seen the quotes. I'm just going to be honest. I really don't know much about Rumi. Like, who is that?
He's basically this poet from very, very, very back in the day. I don't know how far, so I might say it wrong, but I want to say like maybe the 1300s. But a lot of the poems he writes is very much about spirituality, very much about being connected to the universe. He had this friend who passed away, and he was saying how he felt very connected to him and his love that he had for him. So a lot of his love poems are directed towards him. And it's not like in a romantic way, it's in a platonic way. But a lot of his poems are about spirituality and opening yourself to the universe. And there's something about them when you read them where you're just like, he spoke to me. Like he sees this other like unknown, like, I don't know, universe or reality where you feel connected to everything. He just writes very beautifully.
So if I were to start to dig into Rumi, is there a book that you would suggest starting with him?
I would definitely say The Universe in You, if I'm not mistaken, because that's the first book that I got of his that you're like, I'm going to start writing it down.
The universe in You?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's The Universe in You.
Sold.
It's really good. Yeah.
Sold. And this is definitely something I want to talk to you because I think you and I probably suffer from the same issue. I am guilty of starting about 10 books and then I guess I'll speak for myself. I don't want to rope you into this, but and then someone tells you, oh, dude, you got to read this or I got to read that, or I'm reading a book that I haven't finished yet. And it's like, if you have not read, I highly recommend reading Amazon or wherever you get books and then just buying more books. I'm a book junkie.
I don't read 10 books at once because I know you told me that where you read several at once.
Yeah.
I have to read it one at a time because if not, then maybe one every now and then I'll make an exception where I'll read two at once. If it's like I'm reading a fiction book and then I want to read some poetry on the side. But I definitely have people give me recommendations, but not all of them are great recommendations. So I definitely wait around and I wait to see whenever I come across it and I get it.
And I wanted to talk to you about this too. And I don't know if you've ever read, it was actually on the Playhouse is where I found out about this book. It's called How to Read a Book.
Yeah, I read that one.
Yeah, of course. Any book I throw out, like,
brag.
Yeah, oh yeah, I read that to him 4 years ago. You bring up that, but so reading that book, because when I'm not gonna lie, like when I'm like, how to read a book, I'm like, that sounds dumb.
Yeah.
And then I read it, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, no, this makes a lot of sense. Like how reading a book is like actually this really like tuned in experience where you can learn and optimize it, but there's certain periods of time, like, you don't want to read a physics book right before bed, probably.
No.
It says like read like novels and more light reading. And when you read, like concentrate on what you're reading and always make sure you read the table of contents. So just table of contents and all stuff like that. And there's this guy I came across, his name's Naval Ravikant, and he changed my viewpoint on reading. Because I'm like you, I do like to finish what I start. I will admit there has been some that have been abandoned as of late, because he was saying how he's like, it's okay to stop reading a book. He goes, if you're not into it, it's okay to stop reading it because there's so many books out there.
Yeah.
He's like, if a book is not speaking to you and or he said like, and I can attest to this, especially I've read a lot of business books, and after a while, a lot of them become repetitive. And
they do. Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes too, he said, you get the concept within the first few chapters and the rest of the book is literally just different examples of what they're talking about. So he's like, use your books as tools to your advantage. Like if you aren't feeling a book, skip to another chapter. And I don't think this would apply to novels. Novels, I think you got to
stick it out.
Can't skip parts of the movie. You got to. So what do you think about that? What do you think? Do you think there's any value in reading like that, or?
I definitely, but it is a business book, because I have read a few business books myself too, just because they were recommended on that Playhouse West reading list. Remember that? Yeah. So I read a few books from there, and a lot of them do eventually where it's like you basically get the message of what the whole book is in the first few chapters, and then basically the whole rest of the book is just explaining, an over explanation of what they already explained in the beginning. I personally, I have to read a whole book just in order, because it's like a pride thing, I feel like, where I have to finish it. And if I don't, then it sits in me where I'm like, oh, I still haven't finished that book, which I do have a few that I just have not finished and I want to, but I like not touching them because I fear that I'm going to go back to it and I'm not going to understand what I'm trying to read. So definitely I have a lot of coworkers and friends who say that they just put down a book if they don't like it. I wish I could be that way, but I'm stubborn and I want to know what happens till the end.
Shoot, you reminded me of something. Books, reading. Well, I think I got distracted because I wanted to bring up where you work for a second, if you were comfortable.
Oh, yeah, it's okay.
With that, but there's something to do with what we're talking about with the reading the books. I'll come back to it. So for you work at a book place.
Yes.
I mean, that's like the wolf working at the hen house.
Basically,
they just let you right in. So what's that like? That has to be an amazing experience. Because could you tell us a little bit about that? What that's like? Working at a bookstore.
It's so much fun. Honestly, I've worked retail for maybe 6 years, I want to say, but it was always closed retail. Anyone who has worked closed retail knows how miserable it is because you're dealing with a lot of angry customers, a lot of entitled customers too. But working at a bookstore, it's so different because once you're actually in a place where you're excited about what you're selling and you have so much knowledge about it, it's easy for you. Someone comes up to you and they're like, I want a recommendation for a mystery. So you give your own recommendations, and then even we have little headsets. So over the headset, we could even ask other of our coworkers, like, hey, I need a recommendation for a love triangle story for a 13-year-old. And it's a female, and she really likes this one book, this series that had this love triangle, and she wants to find something similar to that. And so then even if you may not know it, other people are going to know it. And it's just amazing because you get so many recommendations. You always know what books are coming out. You get to also display the books how you want to display it. If you know your customers well, you get to know what they're buying and then put forth what else is relatable to what they have bought before. Just understanding that experience. So it's amazing. I love it.
So that's what they're doing with those little thingies that you talk in.
Oh, yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's either recommendations or, basically.
I would think as part of the interview process, I mean, you have to love books. They want you to be into books to work at a bookstore, right?
Yeah, of course.
They're not going to hire someone that doesn't read books, I would presume.
I mean, maybe at least if they have a bit of knowledge about books, if they at least, I don't know, read Dr. Seuss,
Yeah, now I'll be honest, I have ordered a lot of my books online, especially this past year, but are people still coming into the bookstores like always? And okay.
Yeah, luckily, you see a lot of people. You see a lot of hot young men as well. at the bookstore.
As we transition to the next topic on the list, thank you for that.
Oh, goodness.
So, you did some Instagram video. I don't know if it was a TikTok, an Instagram, whatever.
It was a TikTok, yeah, TikTok. Okay. And then I put it to Instagram Reel. Just
quick side note. So when people are doing those ad libs of other people's voices and stuff like that, those are TikToks.
Yeah. You could do it on Instagram as well. Like if the audio is uploaded or if you use the audio yourself. But through TikTok, it's easier because you just click the audio and then you can add it to your favorites and save it. Or you could just do the video automatically once you click use the sound. Okay. And for our audience that has not seen this yet, basically you go up to a gentleman who's reading a book and it says, what's it say? It says, hi. Yeah. It's like, hi. Hey. I think you should do it. You do it. I was going to do it. You're going to do a way better job. It's just basically I go up and I'm like, hey, are you looking for a wife? And he's like, what? Like, are you looking for a wife? He's like now? Yeah, like, get married. And he's like, no. And it just ends. There's more to the actual audio itself, right. The actual prank that a girl does. Yeah. But it's just basically the guy's like thrown off where he's like, what? So, well, that leads me to so there's actually an Instagram, I got to send it to you if I can find it. I think it's, now people are going to ask how I know about it. Some woman who also likes to read books. It's basically hot guys who read or something like that. And it's nothing but public pictures on like New York subway trains. Oh, I know what you're talking about. Okay. Yeah. And guys reading books. They haven't uploaded in years. I've checked it. So is it an attractive thing to see a guy out in public reading a book? If they're really reading and doing the reading, then yes. But if they're just, holding it and pretending to read, you could tell. Because you're just like, yeah, you're just here trying to pick up a girl. Like you could just tell because they'll be like with their book and they'll be like looking around. And it's like, yeah, sir, like you're just here to pick up girls. But when a guy is actually genuinely reading his book and into it, it's so attractive. But at the same time, you're like, oh, I don't want to bug him because I'm going to interrupt his heavy reading. Because I don't like to be bugged when I'm reading. So it's just, you just admire from afar. Females, women, feel free to interrupt me anytime. What I'm reading is not that important. So, okay, let me ask you this. Would you be upset if someone who was reading, you were reading, and then he came over and interrupted your reading? Would you be upset? I would be upset if he wasn't a handsome fella that I'm into. I'm going to be honest. If he's someone that I'm not into, then I'd be deeply offended because you thought that my time had to be interrupted by you and you're not some Brad Pitt or George Clooney. And now I'm upset because now I probably lost where the heck I was on my page just to look up at you and have my time wasted. But if it's someone where it's like, then I'm like, oh my God, I'd be like, oh, okay. Like, yeah, that book doesn't matter. What do you want? I guess we'll call them book posers for the time being. Do guys come into the bookstore just to pick up women that aren't really into books? I haven't noticed it. I know that women do it, where there's women who kind of intentionally go to bookstores just to pick up men. But the thing is that we can't tell, at least in our bookstore, and I won't say what bookstore it is, right. But we can't tell if it's part of a pyramid scheme. So we're basically, so it sounds interesting, where women actually go in and target these men who they find reading, and it's always a man who's alone, and he'll just be looking at his book, and then they'll go up to them and talk to them, and they'll always leave with their number. But the reason that we think it's a pyramid scheme, it's because it's always the same woman. So it's not different women. It's the same woman coming in the store and trying to pick up these men. This sounds either like the plot to a murder movie or I was going to say after the recording, I'm going to have to get the address to your bookstore and then I'm going to end up showing up. And then all of a sudden, like, whatever happened to Sam? He became like some cult leader out in Pasadena or something like that. He got recruited at a bookstore and the rest is history. Just don't drink the Kool-Aid. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's something about it's just like anything, right? Anyone who's into certain hobby, I would say you're beyond a hobby with reading, and I
Oh,
would say for me, I mean, it's an essential, like it's an essential, and I personally go through phases. There's times where I've just gone on huge reading sprees, and then it slows down a little bit. But
oh yeah.
if there's one thing I know, reading, and I like to be surrounded by books, and I have books just laying. The ones I'm reading, I just lay out and pick them up when I can. But it's just part of. I just feel sharper when I'm reading. I just feel more on point. I feel more open-minded. I feel like I'm getting a better perspective on the world, per se. And again, I see, like, what I'm saying is when I see a fellow book reader, and for you, it's like, you know, you got the pyramid of books in front of me, you know, you like the guru. It's so amazing how I'm able to connect with people so quickly just over a book. We can have absolutely nothing in common, like nothing. But if we've both read that same book, it's like, oh my gosh, you know, it's like we're best friends. Have you found
you know
that?
what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Have you had those types of connections with people?
Definitely with my coworkers, where we vibe and connect over books that we've read, or even books that I like and they don't like. And I'll be like, no, like it was really, really good. You missed this point. And they're like, no, like I went through these pages and this and that just threw me off, like with The Pisces by Melissa Broder, which is an excellent book, but it's very much a book for people who have had like existential questions, I guess you can say, and like, because it's very weird. Basically, the author herself is very weird.
It's called The
You're gonna
Pisces.
write it down. I see.
I'm a Pisces, so that's why I'm writing that down.
I forgot about that. Yeah. So it's a fiction book too, but it's very good. But I was talking to this one coworker. She's like, "Yeah, I tried it on audio, and I just couldn't get into it." And I was like, "What? Like, it's so good." Yeah, I was like, "How dare you?" And I'm like, "Well, first off, why were you even listening to it on audio?
Right.
I don't do audio.
How dare you insult me?
Yeah, you insulted my intelligence. But yeah, like it's like you bond over just even not liking a book or really liking a book. So, and, you know, I love debating. I love arguments. I love hearing other people's perspectives and hearing other people's point of views. So even them telling me, you know, well, this book was very problematic and it has this and that. I want to hear about that. Don't sugarcoat to me, you know, like, yeah, I like that book because you like it. No, you know, tell me your real honest opinion, because that, you know, maybe I might learn something new. And it also tells me about yourself as a person. And we all want to have our own point of views. We just don't want to follow the crowd and what other people are reading, you know? Because a lot of people just do that. I have a lot of people come into the store where they ask, what is everyone else reading? And you give them the books that everyone else is reading, and they buy those books. So you're not buying anything for your own self-interest. You're just buying it to be in with the crowd. And that book may not pique your interest. You may not like it, but because you wanted to read what everyone else is reading, you got it.
Yeah, you bring up an interesting point. A question that came up is, since you work at a bookstore, you know what books are in the pipeline. You know what books are coming out. What books are going to be the quote unquote mainstream. It's kind of like the movie business too. It's like, oh, that's too mainstream, man. I want the underground stuff. How? And I haven't read a ton of them. There's a few on my shelf I've read that are, you know, pretty well known from different people and individuals. I guess I would call them public figures, I guess would be the way to say it. But, or like, for example, like 50 Shades of Grey, which is actually behind me.
You actually got that book, sir?
I've read them all. I read all three.
Oh, goodness. I'm actually not kind of surprised, though.
There's a whole other story I don't think I've ever told you about a character I used to do called Mr. Grey.
I've seen videos of it when you had them up on your page. That
stemmed from those books.
Oh,
that came from the idea and the inspiration came from 50 Shades.
Oh.
Well, long story short, one of my good girlfriends was reading it at the time, and she's like, "Oh my God, this is the best book I've ever read." And then I'm looking, and at the time it was Twitter. This is years ago. And everyone's like, 50 Shades of Grey. Oh, it's the best book I've ever read. It was mainly women saying it, but I'm like, let me read this 50 Shades of Grey. So my friend's girlfriend goes, "Here, I've already read it like 3 times. You read it." And
Oh my goodness.
And I read it and I'm like, oh, okay. Like it led me on an artistic journey of its own. But I guess what I'm dancing around, what I'm trying to say is, from your perspective, how many of like the quote unquote pop culture books that come out or mainstream books, how many of them are like actually that good, as opposed to people just like jumping on the bandwagon thinking it's really good? Does that make sense?
Yes, it
Because it's the popular thing to do. Like, or it was on Oprah's book club, and not to say that Oprah's book club, there's nothing great on it, because there is, but I don't know. Sometimes I find the best books are the ones that barely anyone's ever told me about or heard of.
There's a lot I can say about that, because I won't say which book club, but there's a specific book club that comes out with books every month. And I've read some of the books in that book club, and all of the books suck. They're just horrible. And I always think to myself, like, why was this chosen? Like, this is a drag to read through. And I think personally, I mean, this is just me speculating, I think that a lot of these book clubs get like a paid, like an advertisement, basically. They get paid to promote this book. They get paid to have it in their club and have people read it. And people think, well, you know, this person is such a credible person and they have their own book club, so I'm going to get the book. But the book is never good. Only maybe, like from that specific book club, I only maybe found like 1 or 2 good books from it. But it's just, you know, people promote books and they're not ever really good. Maybe 1 or 2. I feel like the ones that are not promoted and not in book clubs are usually the best ones. And there's this whole other world in TikTok where it's about books, and it's a lot of people reading the same books over and over. Like, you go through your FYP page and you just see the same books being promoted and everyone talking about the same one, and it gets annoying after a bit. But some of them are good, but not all of them. A lot of people, I feel like, just want to like that book because everyone else is liking it and they want to be a part of that, like that community, you know what I mean?
Right. I think you're right. I think a lot of those quote unquote mainstream books, there's a lot of money behind those.
Yeah.
You know, big publishers, and, you know, which is, I mean, look, it's part of the game. But yeah, I have found like a book like Awareness, for example, the one that you've read, like, and that's me personally. It just hit me personally, but it's not like this book I had always heard about my whole life. I had to hear it through podcasts and other things. And then finally, when I discovered it, I'm like, holy cow. I'm like, oh, this book is, how have I never heard of this?
I actually got it because of you. I remember you posting it once and I added it to my list, and then I got it.
Wow. Well, that makes me happy. You know, I'm always with you. I'm just keeping an ongoing diary or lit journal. And I remember the question I spaced out on earlier. I was going to ask you about reading. Do you ever read books twice? Do you reread books?
I haven't since I was a teenager. I'm going to admit this. This is a secret that I should go to the grave with. But the only book that I've ever really reread is the Twilight series. And it's because as a young girl, I was just so obsessed with Edward. So that's the only book that I've ever reread.
You heard it here first, folks. Lots of secrets and things being revealed on the Sam Dever podcast tonight.
Oh my goodness.
So you're telling me, though, out of all these books I see, like you're only going to read this one time.
Yeah, basically. Like, maybe there's like a few, like there's one here, I think. Oh, it's all the way at the bottom. Because these books that you see here, they're stacked behind other books. So look at that. Yeah, there's other books stacked behind books. But
wow.
Maybe there's one of them, like this one poetry book that I really liked, which is called Dear Moon by Frances Ivey. That one I've picked up every now and then and reread. And also this one, Absolute Solitude by Dulce Maria Loinas. A lot of her poems are very spiritual and very just about like the ethereal and the universe. So that's like one of the 2 books that I go back to, but they're very small books. Like if it's like a big book, I won't reread it twice.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think I got to add that one too. That sounds like a good. And then, by the way, yeah, no, that's genius what you're doing with your books back there.
Oh, yeah.
You can get more space that way. I didn't even realize that. I could be doing that here.
Yeah, no, I have too many. I have like, honestly, maybe like 400 or something books, I think. I don't even know. I haven't counted.
Are you just going to keep, are you ever planning on giving any away? Do you trade books? Do you sell them?
You've offended me.
I mean, oh man, I shouldn't have said that. I will say I have. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I've been told by like my parents and like a lot of friends, you should give your books away. Even if I really hate a book, I will keep it. I have Lolita somewhere in here, which is the book that I hate with a passion, but I need to keep it. But my plan is that once I'm an old lady and I know that my day is coming, I'm just going to give all the books away like for a free garage sale. Like any kids that come through and want to pick them up, they can take the books.
That's incredible. You're just going to have like this just wall. Like you're not going to have wallpaper or paint on your walls. You're just going to have books that line everything.
Right? Yeah. I want to have my own library. Why not?
Yeah, we already pretty much do.
I want a bigger library. I want a whole room full of books.
I want more. And I'm gonna say that like so awareness. I keep talking about. I went and actually bought a bunch of copies of it because I just it's like $8 on Amazon. I just hand them to people now because not only do I believe in the message of it, but I have in the past, and I'm not calling anyone out. And if you have one of my books and never read and returned it, it's totally fine. But I do realize though there's some books that I'm never giving away again. I got a couple back there I've given away a couple times, and just with the good spirit of like, man, you got to read this. And then I never asked for the book back, but I don't think some people ever read them either. And that's okay. But it's like, books are also sacred. Like there's some of the, there's just like, a couple books. I'm like, here, read it, go take it. And then like, I just gave away one of my most important books. It's like, well, what happens when I want to read that book again? So that's when I just started getting a couple copies of books I really like, and I'd rather just give them to someone.
That's sweet.
But not calling anyone out. But and then
but if you're listening, John.
Huh?
It's like, but if you're listening, John, I want my book back.
Yeah. Or at least give me a book report. At least give me a conversation so we can talk about it.
Don't let it just sit there collecting dust.
Well, and actually the tides have turned on me a couple times. Like I'm used to just giving books out, but all of a sudden people send me books. I'm like, now I have to read it. But it's good. I like that. And I consider you one of those people that we have these people that we can exchange these books and these ideas and that are constantly have their pulse to like new books or books that we just discovered coming out. I think it's a valuable asset to have. So, exactly. So we've been about getting to that time here. We've been going about an hour.
Wow.
Thank you. Yeah, I know. I should have known we were going to talk about books a lot. It only makes sense. I wouldn't have had this any other way.
We're both surrounded by them everywhere we go.
I want to plug your book again because it's really good. Then the Flowers Found Me. How do people buy your book and get your book?
So they can get it on Amazon. They can also get it on barnesandnoble.com. Basically, anywhere you buy books online, you can get it. You can also come directly to me on my Instagram because I'm sure you'll put a handle somewhere or whatever and get it through me directly as well. And I give it to you for like half the price that you would get it online. Okay. And what's the Instagram? Lucy, LucyIXX. Okay. All right. Yeah. That is awesome. And Lucy, I have been reserving the last part of the show. And I apologize. There's church bells going on outside. I really hope that's not... I think someone was mowing their lawn out. I hope that didn't come through. The other night I was doing one. It was actually with JJ. There were some children playing in the street. And you know this living in LA. I've lived out here for 4 years now, but it's like there's noises. There is. You literally cannot film because a helicopter goes by. Someone's mowing the lawn. There's a car going down the street. You say, I just want to film this quick 5-minute thing. Yeah. But you can't because the city is so darn loud. Leaf blowers and all this other stuff. But this should pick up, and actually they should be going away here soon. I didn't hear it. Okay, well, you don't hear it. So I guess, is there anything you can leave us with? It can be a book you're currently reading, a thought you've been having. It can be inspiration, anything that's on your mind to leave us with. I think definitely as of late, it's just take time for relaxation, to rest and relax, and to not pressure yourself to do what other people want you to do. or what you expect yourself to do, because you will tire yourself out. And, we want to be there for others and we want to do stuff for ourselves all the time, but we need that time to just get ourselves together and know that, I need to prioritize myself. I need to rest. I need to just not think for a bit and not do what I'm doing and not rush myself, not pressure myself. So I think that's at least what I have been feeling the last few days, the last week, is that I really need to prioritize myself. And I think a lot of people need to do that too, because in this city, we feel so much pressure to, keep up with other people that we see succeeding online, or just in general, we're not doing this. We haven't gone to that audition and we missed that opportunity. But, just let it all go. Your time will come when it comes. Just relax if you need to relax and get yourself together. And when the next opportunity comes, you'll be able to strike much harder because you have your strength back,
That was amazing, because I know you have the last word, but you make me want to talk about that because I have been talking about this same concept with so many people. And I know as you do too, we have a lot of artist friends.
Yeah.
And I feel that, and it's the gift of this curse of like, quote unquote, Hollywood, right? Like it's a great place to go chase your creative endeavors. Yeah. But at the same time, I feel it also puts this unnecessary pressure, and social media actually amplifies that times 10.
Oh, yeah.
Times 100 of people thinking I just talked about this on the last podcast, of people thinking they're not good enough or they're not doing enough because they're seeing, well, this person did this project and this person won this award over here. And you automatically go, well, I'm not doing that.
Yeah. I'm not doing anything.
Yeah. Well, maybe, and that's okay. Like everyone's journey is different. Like everyone has a different path. And I think what you just said, I think that's really dope. And I agree with all of that.
Yeah.
So on that note, Lucy, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
This book, Then the Flowers Found Me, was an incredible book. I encourage everyone to go get that and check it out. And I'm really looking forward to your next two books as well.
Thank you.
And the next two, and the next two, and the next two after that. So, Lucy, great seeing you. We will talk again soon.
All right.
Bye-bye.